segments in circles, there's certain rules for different kinds of segments in circles. The first rule says this: the product of the lengths of the segments of one chord is equal to the products of the lengths of the other chord. What it says is this, general terms. If you take each chord and break it into the parts, if you multiply the two parts of one, it's got to equal the two parts of the other. So if I'm talking about AE, what is the other part that goes with AE? BE.
So AE times BE?
AE times BE would be the two parts of that one chord, and they would have to equal CE times
DE.
DE. Basically, you just take each chord, break it into its two parts, multiply the two parts together, and that's going to be equal. Am I saying that CD is going to be the same length of AB?
No.
No, that's
Just
not what I'm
saying,
saying.
multiplying them, they equal to the other two.
When I multiply, I'm going to get the same answer, but not overall being equal to each other. All right, this one says product of the lengths of one secant segment and its external segment equals the product of the lengths of the other secant segment and its external segment. In layman's terms, what the easy version is, you take the outside times the whole thing equals the outside times the whole thing. So on this first one, the EA is what part? That's the outside. Well, that's got to be multiplied by the whole thing, which is BE. And then the DE is what? That's the whole thing, so I've got to multiply that by the outside, which is CE or EC. That doesn't matter. But generally, this is what you're doing. Outside times the whole equals the outside times the whole. You can remember that. It's an easy rule. All right, last row here. Then you got a secant and a tangent. The product of the lengths of the secant segment and its external segment equals the square of the length of the tangent. In other words, this, you're going to take the tangent one and square it. The secant one is going to follow the same rule it did last time, which was what?
Outside
Times.
whole.
So that if you ever see this right here, the DE part, that rule is the same. Outside times the whole thing. So take the tangent one and square it. There's my EA squared. The next one will be what?
EC?
EC outside times
CD.
whole thing. Outside is EC, whole thing is DE. So if you ever see the secant part, that rule doesn't change. It's always going to be outside times the whole thing. All right, look at this first one right here. Which rule is this?
It's the
first one. And the first one says, I'm going to take the parts of each chord and multiply them together. So I would take 6 times x, you can do x times 6, not going to change anything, equals what?
5, 6. 5 times 6.
No. 5 times 12. The two pieces of one make a fraction, or excuse me, make a, or multiply together, and the two pieces of the other are multiplied together. So 6 times x, there's one chord multiplied together, and then 5 times 12 would be the other one. Solve a simple equation. And then always double check and make sure it works. What is 6 times 10? 60. What is 5 times 12? 60. You know you got the right answer. Alright, the second one. Most people look like we were okay with it. 9 times x equals 15 times 3. So 9x equals 45. Divide and get 5. Right, the last one over here, when we do the multiplication, we got 3x times 2x, and then 4 times 24. Well, 3x times 2x, well, 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared, equals 96. I divide by 6 to get the variable by itself. I get x squared equals 16.
And the square root of 16 is 4.
Right. Technically, the square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. But what we've got to check every time is if I plug in a negative, does it still work?
Yeah.
So if I plug in a negative right here, what do I get?
You'll just get a negative.
I get negative 12. Can a link be a negative number?
No.
No, you cannot go a negative
Because that would
distance.
be imploded.
So if I go by plugging in and get a negative number, that takes out the negative and just leaves the positive answer. So technically the answer is plus or minus 4, but then we check the negative and it doesn't work for this one. So the answer is 4.
I knew.
When I see x squared in the problem, what does that really mean?
That means that you square root the.
Nuh-uh. What does it mean? You see a square. No. We talked about this other day. If I see a squared in the problem, that means 2 answers.
A plus or minus.
I've got 2 answers. The problem is the negative one just doesn't work for this problem.
Jeepers.
So if you see a squared in there, it means 2 answers, but you've got to check and make sure they actually work.
Son of a human being.
All right, what does the rule say on these?
Multiply the outer by the inner.
Outside times the whole. Outside times the whole. What do you think people mess up the most on this? What do you think they do?
13. 3 times 13.
They do 3 times 13.
You can do 3 times.
And that's not what it is.
3 times 16.
3 times 16. Outside is 3. The whole thing is 16. Now go to the second one. The outside is 4. And the whole thing is...
X.
And then I just got 4x.
3 times.
If you ever see this part right here, that's telling you that the whole thing is whatever that variable or number
Oh,
is.
see. So you add it up. 48.
Outside is 3. 3 plus 13 is...
Then you use it.
Yep. So I get 48 equals 4x. Divide by 4 and get 12. Notice what's the difference in the second problem and the first problem?
Second problem, it doesn't give you the whole
It
thing.
doesn't give me the whole thing.
But we can still say that
All right, now,
X.
hold on. If I do the top part, that's going to be 6 for the outside times
10.
whole thing of 10. All right, for the bottom part, what's the outside?
5.
All right, now here's where you got to make sure you understand it. What is the whole bottom part?
5x.
No. What did you say?
X plus 5?
X plus 5.
Because 5x would be multiplication.
Thank you. All right, in order for me to figure out what this part is right here, I have to add those two things together. So it's x plus 5 instead of 5x. All right. You should be able to solve it from there. Finishing this one.
I do.
60 equals 5x plus 25. Here's what some people mess up on. We do that one and do 5 times x, but we forget to do 5 times 5. Make sure you multiply both parts. Then you just got a simple equation. Solve your equation, you should get 7. Going to the last one over here. Outside is 6. The whole thing is 14. Outside is 7.
7
Whole
plus
thing
X.
is x plus 7. Could you put 7 plus x?
Yes.
Sure, it doesn't matter. Multiply it, 84 equals 7x plus 49. Make sure you do both parts. Solve the little simple equation we got after that. Alright, any problems with those?
A little forward, no, I got it.
If I start with this one, I always take the little one and square it. The tangent part has to be squared, equals outside times the whole thing. So I wind up with x squared equals 100. Square root that. Now technically I get plus or minus 10. If I take that negative and try to plug it in here, I wind up with a negative answer. So I wind up with just positive 100 or positive 10. All right, the last one. Y'all, x squared equals 4 times 14. So
56.
that gets 56. I square root that.
Plus minus 7.5.
All right.
But you can't.
All right, on this, I do want us to get to the point now where we can take square root of 56 and break it down and leave the square root on there, because that is on the EOC. So the way to break down, I'll do an easy one first. 20. If I want to break down the square root of 20, I need to find a square that goes into 20.
4.
Squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on. I want to find the biggest square number that goes into 20. And it's 4. So I'll put that down first. It's 4 times what?
4 times 5.
So this is, I'm going to rewrite square root of 20. It's square root of 4 times square root of 5. What's the square root of 4?
2.
So this is really 2 square root of 5. All right? We need to be able to do that. On this one, I'm going to do the same process with 56. What you need to do is find the biggest square up under this number. Well, the next one after 36 is 49. Does 49 go into 56 evenly?
No.
No. Does 36? No.
Yeah. No.
Not evenly. 25?
No.
16?
Yeah.
Evenly? No. 9?
Yeah. No.
No.
You're saying
4?
yeah, it says
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is really square root of 4 times square root of 14,
I knew I'd get it.
which breaks down as 2 root 14. We need to be able to get to do that, so I want us to start practicing some of those. Otherwise, do the decimal answer and you're okay. But I do want us to get that.